It's bigger. It's louder. It's better than ever. This still isn't your typical motorsports podcast. This is the 10th anniversary of Crush This, a monster truck podcast brought to you by J Concepts. For 10 years, your hosts, the monster truck Canucker Bradshaw and Dan Chichagash, have brought you into the minds and personalities of the monster truck industry. Strap in and hold on tight. This is Crush This!
Hey, welcome to another episode of Crush This, a monster truck podcast presented by J Concepts. I just wanted to give a quick note too. Bradshaw is not going to be with us today. He's taking a mental break this week. He has posted online, stuff like that. So if you want to keep up to date with Brad, check up on him. Go right ahead. He's trying to bounce back and go from there and have some, get his groove back, let's just say. But Brad, keep doing what you're doing, bud. You got this. And have some fun with that. I want to thank once again J Concepts for what they have done. Since we have Mr. Mike Welch in our interview part 2, which is awesome, J Concepts and we kind of did a little bit of some RC monster trucks, my old school monster trucks. We got the Lone Ranger on 73s, and then we got No Problem on top of Lone Ranger. That's pretty cool. But if you want to do that and get yourself some cool RC monster truck stuff, go to jconcepts.net, hit Crush This to get 15% off. When you check out at J Concepts, you can get the 73s, the Goldyear 66s, the Firestorms, which they're like Firestones, the Ford Bronco body, the Ford Ranger body, Chevy, GMC. You want your old school monster truck, go to J Concepts and they'll hook you up right there. 15% off for what you need for an awesome looking 10 scale replica. Can't beat that, you know what I mean? That's some pretty cool stuff, not gonna lie. So go to jconcepts.net for that. While you're at it, if you want to get yourself some cool merch with this hat with the old school TNT look, go to our Crush This Monster Truck Spread Shop. Get some cool merch that way. Can't beat that. Helps us out, supports our cause, and it keeps our podcast going. So that's pretty cool stuff. Go take a look at that also. Another thing is just wanted to go, we have our guest on too. So if you guys want to help out Mike in the Super Pete modern monster truck, the People's Pete, go right over here, help him out, become a sponsor, and do an awesome cause to see this truck get built, get ready for the open house, do some awesome stuff, and go from there. So you'll be on. We'll talk a little bit more about that too. Another cool thing, also go to monstersmonthly.com. They have our podcast, the audio wise. So if you can go there. So once again, thank you for the 5 stars on iTunes and on Spotify. Please like, share, subscribe to our channel. Take a screenshot. Tag me and Mike in this episode. Tag Brad also saying you're watching the show. It helps us out big time. But Monster Truck Monthly, Monsters Monthly, will have our audio going on and show some love for that too. So go to monstermonthly.com and take a listen to audio episodes of Crush This, a Monster Truck podcast. If you follow that website, go ahead and show some love. Also with that too, Geared for Life by Bryce Kenny. And this book, go to amazon.com. Making the shift into your full potential. I have listened to the audiobook. If you listen to it on Spotify, it takes about 5 hours total for the whole episode. The whole book. I also have it digitally, so go take a look at that also. And also Mark Warner, MW1 Entertainment. He's having an episode, I think 2 weeks from now, or maybe next week. I have to see the schedule. I don't know which one. It's either next week we're having Morgan Kane, or Mark will be on next week. I gotta double check and confirm that, but the next 2 episodes is either or. So go and take a look at MW1 Entertainment. We got a little bit more video ads to show, and then we'll get on our way with Mr. Mike Welch and Super Pete. So part 2. So we're gonna have some fun chatting with him and have a good time. I got some videos and photos and stuff like that for him to chat and go with this. And also with you guys, go ahead, ask some questions for Mike, and we can ask away for him and go from there. So this is going to be a fun time. So here we go.
Are you ready to get in on the action here on the Monster Truck Attitude YouTube channel? Look no further. Head over to Facebook where you can sign up for all the great events we host right here on the MTA YouTube channel. Be sure to sign up for the events and register your name and get locked in with a monster truck of your own and get ready for the great thrills and spills right here on the MTA YouTube channel. Again, find us on Facebook, register for these events, and you soon will be competing in all the great events. We hope to see you there, and get ready for the wild and crazy action. Be sure to subscribe and turn on all notifications so you don't miss a beat right here on the Monster Truck Attitude YouTube channel.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for all the sponsors that people help us out and everything like that. But we have Mr. Mike Welch. How's it going, man? We got part 1 underneath the books. Part 2's here we go. And we got a lot of people requesting you. It was awesome having all these views and having this episode. So, I'm excited to have you back again.
Well, it's great to be back, and just kind of a crazy deal to get this all put together. I travel a lot, and I'm always different places, and this time outside of Houston and at Whataburger, and people around the country that might not have a Whataburger in their neighborhood or access to it. I'd never had it before, but I've seen on Landman where they talked about Whataburger, and if it's good enough on Landman, it's certainly good enough for Monster Mike. And this is right outside where the hotel is, where I'm staying down here and doing some work down here. And I asked the manager if I could do this, and you think it's tough to ask for no pickles or something at a hamburger joint. Man, when I'm trying to explain to him, we got 15, 20 minutes. I'm going to go get a quick shower at the motel, get back. I asked for a little step stool, and we got it. And I'm going to try to keep it. As long as the tape doesn't fail, Houston, we won't have a problem here, and we're good. I got a new cord for the phone and new batteries in my headset, and I think we're good. I don't know if we'll go as long as we did before, but I'm here for you. And I just don't want it to be like the professional wrestling that I did. I had a couple that were pretty successful, and then the wrestlers that I had hired, they came back into those markets time and time again every other week, and it went from a decent crowd to a small crowd to a little crowd to barely a crowd. So hopefully that's not the case here, and certainly want to answer all the questions and all the fans and friends and any updates of what we got going. And just so we don't to beat a dead horse, so to speak, the Super Pete deal, I thought we'd get some good activity out of there. And as when I left, I didn't check this last time home, but we had 0 come in for that. A lot of people said they wanted to help. They wanted their name on the truck. They wanted to be part of it all. But as of now, and I haven't checked the box to see if any was there recently, but the first month we had 0 in there, and we aren't going to beat that anymore. We tried, and I appreciate everybody that said they were going to step up and help get their name on the table and out of there and go on the truck, and we're still going to do it. And I'm just happy to have all the fans and the support for the new truck. It is out of Florida, and I wanted to thank Dabney for that, and also Big Bubba, who helped load that truck, and the hotshot guy that got it here to Houston. And then we transloaded it out of Houston, and it's safe and sound back in right next to our hometown. We haven't, the weather's been so bad up there, we haven't got it off the lowboy trailer yet, but it's all there ready to go and get started on that roll cage and some of the patent pending items that I've been working on for many, many years. And it's time for me to do it. It can't live anymore in my mind, and whether right, wrong, or indifferent, it's all going to come to light. And if the patent pending doesn't come through with enough protection with the entertainment lawyer that I have, so be it. It'll just be out there.
Man, that's awesome to hear, getting everything going. And, like I said, like I showed them before, your PO box and everything like that. People want to we'll still, ever since the episode happened, we still try to push it. We bring it up every single episode to let people try to help out and go from there. And, me and Brad's been trying to really get that going and help the cause and bring the people's feet in.
Yeah, it's going to come either way. Don't overdo it. Everything's going to be just fine. I've always believed that, and that's kind of the story of my life, that you don't know how it's all going to come, but it's all going to come around, and everything's going to be fine.
Someone did ask, what's your thoughts on a Monster Mike Welch Motorsports like t-shirt hat type deal, or like die-cast toys and stuff?
Well, we've got all that very close to coming together, but as anyone that's followed my career that knows the deals with Buddy L and some of the other mishaps from decades ago on the toy deals that never happened because of trademarks and situations that I didn't have my ducks in a row. That's all what I'm working on now. We've got some very good connections and all of it, and it's all going to happen. It'll all be available. We're just about to the final stages on the Monster Mike's Bar and Grill in Sturgis for Bike Week, and then it'll be other things off of Bike Week there in Sturgis, South Dakota. So I've got to meet with the fire marshal there on my way back west here in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll see what the capacity is, what the fire marshal will let us do, and then we will announce what we're going to have there. But we all have to have dreams and goals, and I'm to the final chapter of my life, and I still have goals and dreams, and they all said that I couldn't do anything that I've done, from starting with the very first truck off the street truck to the first monster truck to announcing to producing to movies to things I got to do. So we always have to have dreams. We always have to reach out and go for it, and that's the case. And if there's a hurdle or a roadblock that comes up, so be it. But right now, everything is falling into place. Just couldn't ask for a better opportunity. The perfect storm with the property owner, and everything that's happened so far has been a true blessing. And I'm very, very excited. And even my father is excited about going to Sturgis with one of his trikes and to get to putt around. So if it puts a smile on my daddy's face and gives him something to look forward to, that's all good for me also.
So I'm going to show my first video, and I was interested about the story about this one. People talk about, let's go right here. People always talk about your pink Super Pete, but what was the story behind Mr. Yellow Super Pete? It looks like a lot, uh, is it the same frame? It looks a lot built really like it could run a TET event or can handle its own.
Well, that particular truck, when Chuck Jordan got his new Patrick truck, that was the old Survivor truck, and it had the 70s Chevy. It was black, steel body on it, and we just put it into the lineup, and we were very, very abusive back in those days on all the trucks. We showed no mercy, and that truck that was built, that Chuck Jordan had, Jerry Strode helped a lot on those traction bars. Still some of the nicest old school traction bars that were ever built. So that's a front engine, very limited on the suspension, and it had multiple drivers, but really I think the person that put it out there the most in that particular time frame is Chris Guzman, Moondog Guzman. He's the one that would drive that, and a lot of the videos of it with the front engine doing its thing. They were a military planetary. He had a nice drop box in it, but the military planetaries, a lot of companies built things for the military, and they weren't anything that I had ever seen. They weren't a Rockwell, they weren't a Clark, they weren't anything. They were a company that built stuff for the military. They probably came out of, and Chuck would probably know exactly what they came out of, but if I had to guess, I would say they were like an airplane tote, something for the military, a toter deal. They were a large planetary, and they were pretty tough, but the cast and the steel content was very questionable. And when people pour cast stuff, if you get a high steel content in the cast, very strong, very weldable. This was weldable, but not very strong. And then once we started putting it through its paces, it was limited of how much it could do. And this is the truck that the boys from England came. They seen it at the very, very end of its life, right before the cutting torch went to it. And we were trying to sell it. They had interest in it, and they passed. And not only did they pass, they turned around and ran back away from it. And then they went and bought, I believe, the Kodiak truck that they have today, and it's still running. And what a great deal they put together. This would not have served them properly. They made the right call, their father and everyone that had the judgment on it, to say, let's stay away from this one. It's been used up. It was a good call. So that's the story on the Yellow Pete.
So let's go to that Hall of Fame deal you met. How did that all come about with the guys from England with the Big Pete monster truck team, and how did they got you involved to become like the tour guide of the America monster truck kind of history domain?
Well, it was just something like so many of my ideas. A lot of them work out very well. Some of them don't work out so well, but I try to live my life from the heart, and I'm a giving person. And I find in my life the most joy that I get is from helping people and giving money and helping surprise people that aren't expecting a surprise. Not that any of this was in that scenario, but I try to live my life that way. Every day I try to help somebody, and just what I can do, it brings me a lot of joy. And I've been so blessed in my life in so many levels that it really helps me just to feel great inside. And so this was the deal when I heard they were coming out to the Hall of Fame. This was a big, big deal for them, coming to America, and they wanted to come out and meet everybody. So I believe one of the boys, Michael didn't know, I don't think his father knew, and one of the boys, I had to have some kind of contact with them, so I said, Nick, keep it under wraps. And that's what we did. And they didn't know I got the table for them so they would have a place to set at the Hall of Fame because it packs out and sells out. And so we had that for them that I got for them. And I just thought that possibly, kind of a funny story. I'm just going to let it roll here. I didn't know how well they would driving on the wrong side of the road or the right side of the road, however you say it. So I know when I perform in Japan, I have panic attacks, anxiety attacks. When I ride in a vehicle in Japan, I just don't do very well. Just the scenario. So I thought, well, I would offer my driving services if they needed it. And we would go down and we would just do a little tour. They had places that they wanted to go. They had people that they wanted to meet and see. And then I just threw my 2 cents worth into the routing and said, hey, let's boogie on over here. Let me make a call to some of my friends. And my friends stepped up big time and really gave them a great tour. And my friends would do that for anybody, but it just was a perfect scenario that for the English boys, they really got to see it all. And then the one thing that I thought was funny, I was talking to Tom the other day, and I asked if they ever needed me to drive their car. And they said, well, you're not on the insurance. You can't drive this thing. So I said, okay, that's no problem. I just sat back and rode around with them. And I tell you what great drivers they were. It was kind of funny. I don't know how much gasoline is in England, but I think it's $7, $8, $9 a gallon. It's pretty crazy. So when they would fill that big old Suburban up and it would be a few $100s, they were just giddy with joy of how reasonable our gasoline was compared to over in England. And so we finished up over at Tom Mentz's, and I thought was really funny. We never said anything, and I did tell Tom this, and he laughed the other day that I said, when we got there, Tom jumps right in the driver's seat of their rental car, their Suburban, and I just smiled. Nobody said a word, and they certainly weren't going to tell Tom Mentz that he couldn't drive their rig. So we went around Tom's place, got a nice tour of his whole setup, and I just kind of snickered under my breath that I couldn't drive it, but they sure didn't say anything for Tom Mentz to drive their rental car. There was no abuse or anything, no spindles tore off or spider gears burned up or anything. He just got her done. So that's how that kind of came about, and we've become really good friends. And I hope that I'll get over there and see their part of the world. I've got to travel a lot of places in my career, but England is one that I haven't. And it's on my bucket list, and I'd like to go over and see their operations. I know I'll sound funny and mispronunciate a lot of the words. Aluminum is not aluminum over there. It's a different way, and I'm sure there's a million more. But that's all part of the fun of traveling to new places and different cultures and different countries.
So I wanted to have this picture here that I saw, and I wanted to kind of show you, which I thought was pretty cool, was this Super Pete article. I don't know where is this at, but it looks like you're doing an exhibition car crush.
Yeah, one of the many magazines. I would say that is in our hometown. Wayne Agerdal's property, Bob Vanderplug's property back a long, long time ago. We would do the photo shoot there. We had the picture of me standing next on the running board of the Peterbilt. That was definitely taken there. I had my shirt, my Hot Rod shirt from after the movies in Toronto, because that's where the Rolling Vengeance was filmed, up in Toronto. And I went to, I think at Maple Leaf Garden, had my Rowdy Piper shirt on, and I loved that shirt. And if you see that photo of me standing there, I was 23, 24 years old on the step of the running board, so to speak, on the Pete. That's in that photo. And that definitely was there. The Monster Mash was there with all the tires armor all. Ron Struckman, rest in peace, Ronnie. He pinstriped it all. It never went over any cars. We painted, pinstriped, and armor all the tires, and really nice. I'm so glad that we did that kind of stuff back in there, because my stuff was really rough around the edges. We always abused it. And it wasn't from the fact of not putting the money in and doing it. It was just that we ran everything so hard and abused everything so much that it was always hard to to have your show face on and have everything always perfect.
So, I mean, and then I don't know if Brad talked about it, but I was very interested in your how did they come about with the Tokyo 1989 monster trucks in the Tokyo Dome, first ever event the USHRA held in Japan. Had your both trucks, Monster Mash, Super Pete, Terminator with Gary Schatz, So High 2 with David Bell, Rolling Thunder with Jim Odaker, Mola Monster, Jeff Bergenham, obviously
The boys from Hawaii.
Kid Rarick with PA Mountain Monster, Flying Eagle, and then they may not say, they say it's unconfirmed, but they said Kevin Dabney could have been there with Chi Town Hustler. But man, how did that all come about? And I did find a video of that looks like that show, and someone had a tape of this, but it shows Monster Mash there. And I think you're taking on So High too. Tell me, how did that all come about, and everything like that, and it was kind of a big deal in '89. That, and they also did a monster. I think, were you part of the monster truck show in Hawaii also?
Yeah, if memory serves me correct, and Gary Schatz got a memory really good, and Furby and the guys. I don't think Dabney was there with that other machine. I don't recall them, but everybody else that you said, I believe that 89. We went 89 and 90, and 89 was just a little more special for me because Bigfoot wasn't there that year. They were there the next year, and then that's where the Peterbilts and that lost a little thunder, a little luster when you have Bigfoot in the house, and that's kind of the story of my career, a little bit of being at the right place at the right time. And I think a lot of us West Coast guys got the opportunity to go there because of the Hawaii deal, and that was John Borba, and John Borba, rest in peace, my friend. He brought a lot of great shows, a lot of expertise, a lot of early pioneering days to the stadiums and things that he did. And it definitely was part of the Hawaii deal that had us all pretty much gathered up. If memory serves correctly, it wasn't a direct ship from Hawaii to Tokyo. They had to come back to, I think, Oakland and then reload because Matson kind of had the direct connection from to Hawaii, Matson line. So I think we shipped and switched carriers, and then they went. It was, if I remember right, 6 days to Hawaii and 12 or 13 days to Japan, and that's how we did that and went over there, and it was a lot of fun. I wish that I went and did a show. Curcio put it together, and we went to Japan in 2014, and being a lot older and a little bit wiser, the opportunities that we had back then, we were very young kids and missed some opportunities there also, the early Japan stuff.
I am playing back this Monster Mash. What was the difference between this truck and the one that you ran like at Oklahoma City back in like '86?
I'm going to put my old glasses on to try not to bump the thing here. I'm sorry for everybody, but that's the way that. So that version of the MASH was when we started, and John Furby drove that a lot. That because I was in the Pete and John was in there. We had a couple different Johns, but John Furby did most of the driving. And when you seen it with the wing, really similar. The frame was the same, and I started right from the very first truck with that military channel frame, and if that wasn't heavy enough, then I put half-inch plate and boxed it down and had a lot of heavy iron on that truck, and that's where it went through a lot of different stages. It had the leaf springs front, and then we did a long travel arm. That truck, we didn't have a rear engine in it with that design. It always had a front engine in. So to try to get some of that weight to transfer to the back, went with a long trailing arm right up under the front hangers. So that transferred a lot of the weight to the back and helped it out. That was the first generation of fiberglass bodies. There weren't many fiberglass bodies there, and that was before I learned how to make the molds. And I've done a few molds. I'm not by any means an expert. It's a tough gig, but everywhere you have a reverse angle or a negative in the mold to get it to release, you pretty much have to have a flange on it. And Trey Myers, if you're watching tonight, you certainly agree how many flanges it takes to work in and around the grill and that stuff. So we took a lot of liberty on that. The bed sides, they were obviously pretty easy to make. And then 2 of those have survived. They're on the new Monster Mash. And when it comes time to making the mold of this body that's on the new Mash, that's what we'll use. But the cab design, so many negatives, and then the big open windshield, unless you can put a wraparound Lexan or plexiglass in there, they look kind of funky without windshields in them. That's why even the new Mash has an actual glass windshield in it to bring the character and the classicness look back. Because so much of that stuff, when they missing the glass, they don't look the same. And that's what we did with this one-piece nose, and then the body sides that incorporated the tilt flange on the nose, and that's how that look came about. But it was the original frame with that's the same cage that was on it when we did the Mickey Thompson stuff that came through the back window. We just cut the sheet metal away from it and bolted on the fiberglass.
I'm just showing some footage I found on YouTube. I don't know where, but you had a little bit of a stumble on that. That I thought that was pretty cool that the Japanese Japan show. How did if you remember correctly, how did the people enjoy seeing the monster trucks there? I mean, when you walked around the town, did they have like displays there, stuff like that? How did the Japanese people handle, seeing a monster truck? I know their past history of entertainment. They're known for monsters, Godzilla and all that stuff, it's kind of their big deal. But, for them seeing a monster truck or a monster truck show, how did they handle it, you thought?
Well, it's just my opinion, and Gary Schott and some of the other guys that if they're following along, they could comment on it. I was young, and as we get older, we see things a little differently. But at the time, my opinion was at the time that they were just extremely polite. They were intrigued, but they didn't know anything different of the trucks. They had bought some Seth Dalton trucks that they were introducing to people over there. But they were just, I think, truthfully, they were just in awe with the culture that we were bringing them, because they hadn't seen it before, and that they were just as much in awe of me, Caberna, my brother, later the next year with Ron Big Lurch from Bigfoot, walking around there. They were just as intrigued with us as our size as they were with the monster truck. They love to be entertained, but they really, in my opinion, didn't know what to expect or what was going to happen, because they'd never seen anything. So they were in awe, but it's not like Ryan Anderson doing a bicycle and doing stuff that you knew that someday you might see this first stunt, and when you seen it live for the first time, you're out of your seat with emotion, because you knew that could happen someday, and then you finally got to see it. But they didn't know what to expect of the trucks. They were just happy to be there and witness that stuff that they saw. And same with like what you're seeing there on the Pete right now. I would go out and I had the little bars on it and put it up. Those rear ends weren't locked in, but it had that heavy transfer case that kind of gyroed around, and a little magic happened here and there to where it would set back down on its wheels. But I tell you, I'm a huge fan of what they're doing today and watching. And just when you think with the new stuff that you've seen every trick, you see something that surprises you.
How they do the stoppies and the nose wheelies and everything like that. It's just crazy to really see what's going on and stuff like that, and go from there, I'm excited to see the future and everything like that. And we got a couple fan questions before we continue on. We had one person that I thought was pretty cool to talk about. He said, what's the most outstanding memory you have in your personal experience with monster truck racing or history? Thank Mike for being a true down-to-earth individual.
So many, and I'll try not to choke up on it, but I mean, lots and lots and lots of memories. But I guess the one that sticks out the most was in Portland, Oregon, and it was probably a Dave Matthews deal that put it together. And I took the Peterbilt to a school, and it was outside of Portland, somewhere close. We took the Super Pete over there, and all I had to do was take the truck and let the kids see it. And then they brought the kids out, and they got to see it. And then I suggested to the teacher, I said, how would everyone like a ride in the Super Pete? Because there was a seat in there. It was just a normal position driving in the early one. So I put each and every kid up in that truck and got to drive just a little bit, but each and every kid got to see that. And what the teacher and the principal did, and I've had a lot of nice recommendation letters and a lot of stuff, and unfortunately just about all of it's been lost or misplaced. Maybe it'll resurface, but that each and every one of those kids wrote me a thank you letter. And some of the sweetest was little kids and little girls and little boys. They just hoped that I would never get hurt in that truck. And it was that's probably the most touching. And I always wondered, I've never met any of those kids now that they'd be all grown up. What do they remember? And, are we friends on Facebook? But I've never heard anything from about 30 of those kids. And I always saved every one of their fan mail that they wrote me that letter. And that's probably my favorite thing. And then there's other ones that with the schools that are pretty awesome. I guess the one would be, it might not be that special to him because he's such an incredible young man now. But little Donald Ependendio was probably 10 years old, and we were doing a show down there in their hometown, and I let him drive the school bus, and him and his brother had raised around equipment, and so they could handle anything even at that young age. And I just sat back and let him drive and drove the school bus right down the school, right to his school where he attended school. And that was pretty special to me also, with letting these kids that drive these trucks, and it really sticks with them, and that's those are the memories. I could go on for so many. I mean, it was a big thing to win the Battle of the Monster Trucks in Oklahoma City. You look back at it, this looks a little cheesy now, but it was a big thing for a young kid. That was a long ways for me to go. We zip across the country now and don't think anything of it, but back then, we had marginal haulers, and I remember leaving. It was cold and icy, and brakes weren't that good. I had wedge brakes on the darn semi, and anyone that knows air brakes, wedge brakes aren't that good, and probably marginal on the back too. And my dad was worried. He's always worried, but he was really worried that we're going to get out there in that time of year and make it there and get back. Now we do it, and everybody does it. The equipment's so much better that everybody has, but in the early days, it was a stretch. But that Oklahoma deal, met a lot of great people there, and that was pretty awesome to get to do that early on. I look at my career. If you take the first 10 years, 84 to 94, what I did in 10 years, I just can't believe the progress I got to make. And by the end of those first 10 years, we were in a tube frame by then. So 10 years really changed a lot for me and made that happen in 10 years.
Another thing that I wanted to talk about was, I'm gonna show the video here. Was your Hall of Fame. You got inducted in 2012 with the likes of Dennis Anderson, Jim Kramer, a lot of these people in general. And, even Dennis in a speech says that he was more intimidated about speaking to his peers than thousands of people. When you got this honor and the light that all your peers had shined for you, to become, now you're a Hall of Famer with all, all the work that you have done and everything you have done in the monster truck world. Man, talk about the time that, you saw, this day, with all your peers around you, all your brothers and sisters in the monster truck world, just being there for you.
Well, it was definitely awesome. The only other thing I could think of, as silly as it sounds, the very first time I ever had any of that special feeling. I mean, I raced motorcycles and that was cool as a kid, but when I graduated high school, and a lot of people don't graduate, I did. And when I got to walk down there at the high school and get my diploma, it was a big thing. And I just felt that my mom and dad pushing me to get through school, because there was many, many, many times to hang it up, and you don't necessarily need a diploma and that to do things in life. There's a lot of successful people that didn't go to school that are just fine. But for me, that was the first bit that I felt, this is pretty special. And then the next was with the Hall of Fame. I had a premonition that I wasn't going to make it there, and I didn't know what was going to happen, but I had a premonition that I was going to be in an accident. And I don't want to go into all the details. It would maybe be something of another time if I get to have another session, or we talk about it somewhere else. But I just felt that there was going to be a problem before I could get on stage, before I could see my friends, before I could get the award, that I was going to be in this terrible accident. So I was off to California. We had one show to do down there, and then I believe we left the truck at Gary Schatz, and then I moseyed on out there to Indiana. I left the monster truck there at Gary Schatz and had the show in Indio for Curcio. And during that part of the transition of taking the truck to Gary's and getting in my personal car, I was in a vehicle with a person, and they had a medical emergency, a seizure, so to speak, and it was. And their foot hit the throttle, and we were going over 90 miles an hour in a residential area, and this person was having a seizure, tongue out of their mouth, poltergeist looking thing. And I was able to, I've always acted pretty darn cool under pressure. I was able to get the person's leg off the throttle, and before we crashed through this development, I was able to grab a handful of the e-brake, steer the rig around, and got them out by the freeway and performed CPR on them, and I got them back to life. And that I knew then after that I was going to be okay. The pressure was off, that everything was going to be fine. But when I have these premonitions about things happening, that was a strong one, and I was so thankful when that happened that nobody was seriously injured, and we came through, and heart was racing there for a little bit, that's for sure.
And then we went back. We talked a little bit about the Battle of the Monster Trucks in Oklahoma City. Do you still recall your first phone call on doing a show or doing a monster truck show with Monster Mash?
Well, the very first one, from the transition of me trying to crush cars in the woods to the first paid gig, that transition.
Yeah. You're from your first ever monster truck show.
Oh,
Pretty much.
Crystal clear. Yeah, we had the 2.5 tons, the orange version. Bishop made that video today, and thank you, Mr. Bishop, there for doing that with all the trucks. But you can see that me standing next to the orange Monster Mash. It wasn't Monster Mash at the time, but when I was in school and drove it, and I drove it to school, 60 Ford pickup, and so we took the tires off, and I couldn't run it on the street anymore. And I know a lot of people have heard this story. They outlawed frame rail, bumper height, all that stuff, and they hand delivered me the new rules that stated that this couldn't be done. State Patrol was pretty cool for about a month, and the sheriffs, everybody gave me a pass, but they said on this day you can't drive it anymore. So they bring out the documents of the changed legislature in the state of Washington for all the things that were totally illegal now. And I couldn't drive it anymore. So we started messing around in the woods, crushing some cars. I'd see all those Impalas that we killed in the old days. Everybody killed those 68, 69, 70 Impalas, 2 doors, and those shouldn't have been killed. Those cars are such nice cars. But we crushed there, and then some people heard that there was a kid in the woods crushing some cars, and Bigfoot had just made the magazine. Jeff Dane King Kong was in the magazine, and they said, man, this is something that people would like to see. And so I was able to, with a little bit of help, round up some money and put the very first truck together. And I've talked many times about this, but the Bob Vanderplugs and people in our community that helped me, to get this thing together. My father, and never give up and help in any way they could. We didn't have lots of money, but back in the early days, if you had the desire, it's kind of like me today. I don't know where all the money is going to come from to do these projects and things I want to do, but you put your mind to it and positive thinking, you're able to get it together. And we got the call, and like a lot of guys in the early shows, there weren't really monster truck shows. There were none. There was mud bogs, and occasionally a monster truck would show up in a mud bog or a truck and tractor pull. But a lot of us start at the World of Wheels car show, and that's exactly where my very first deal was. Medford, 1984, March of '84, Bob Schoenhoven in Medford, Oregon, the World of Wheels car show, and in typical Welch fashion, we left late trying to get it together. They were calling, where are we? And the people involved, they're on their way, and we got there late. And I've always had a bit of a gremlin with the shim out on a 168 tooth big block Chevy with the starter, whether it's a steel nose cone Corvette, the 427 to get them not to buck and problems. And I don't have that issue too much anymore, but back in the day, if you had a stubborn starter, and everybody watching, it's got stage fright. And we finally got ready to get over the car, and nobody there had ever seen a live car crush in Medford. I had never been over a set of cars in the Monster Mash. It was just put together as a kid, screwing around with half ton or the 2.5 ton, but never over finished with the deal. And the announcer was talking about, hey, these guys know what they're doing, and they're going to be just fine. And I've always tried to take the honest approach to everything in life. And I went over to them and I said, hey, can I just say a word or two? And they said, yeah. And I by no means speak then like I do now, but I grabbed it and I said, listen, folks, I said, this is my very first time over the cars. This is your very first time seeing somebody crush a car in person. I said, we're going to get through this. The car shows all afternoon and all evening. And a good old boy had a pickup, right? In the old days, we would crush cars maybe 10 or 15 feet from a row of show cars and people standing all around. I know that's a horrible thing to think of now, but in the old days, that's just how it was done. And this old boy goes, hey, kid, let me pull the starter out of my show car. So the guy's underneath there. He had a nice mirrors and nice display, World of Wheels car show. And out comes this big block starter, and we put it in there, and everybody cheered, and we all did it together. And they got to see their first car crush, and I got to do my first car crush with a team effort right from the start. And it was pretty pretty awesome.
Man, that's awesome to hear about that. We have a lot of people. One question was wanting to know about the Cali Kid. When did you start building that truck? I know we talked about the Cali Kid a little bit in our last episode, but with that too, you also had Pirate Pete. So that was what, the early 90s you started building those trucks?
Yeah, basically, just to maybe wrap up the last of the Japan stuff, we were over there doing it, and the Japanese, they wanted the Super Pete, the original Pete, big time. And they had, I'm not going to say the number, but they had I think a large number of U.S. cash and $100 bills in a stack, and they wanted it right then and right there. And I had known roughly what Seth Dalton was selling those other trucks to him for, and it wasn't at that number. And I wasn't trying to get that number, but I was trying to get somewhere between where they offered and what the other number was. So it never happened. And so they ended up buying the Kid Rarick's truck, the Mountain Monster. So that one went to Japan, and I don't think it's ever been seen since then. Chris Mormanis, he would know if anybody, but I don't think it's ever been seen over there where it went. But when we did the shows over there in 14, there's a lot of stuff laying around. You think of Japan, you don't think of the King Mountain Road complex type of thing, but there's a lot of little niches, little wrecking yard operations crammed right in between, condos and stuff. They'll be out there bashing and slashing cars and crushing them. And so it could be tucked away with a tarp over it, anywhere. But when we come back from there, it was time to do something different. And I had in mind what I wanted to do. And I guess this could be a good a time as any to tell this other part of the story, the transition. Bob Chandler with Bigfoot, he's always treated me wonderfully as a friend. I think deep down inside, he's always respected what I could do with very little, and he wouldn't have had to have done this. And he did something that was just absolutely mind-boggling to me. But my mind is way out in left field, always thinking crazy ideas and not anything normal for production. And Bob came over and he says, Michael, he says, this might help you someday. And he gave me a CAD drawing of the new tube frame Bigfoot. And I don't know if he ever told anybody that anyone ever knew. Pray that this doesn't cause any ruffles anywhere. But he gave that to me, and I never did anything with it. I had my own design, my own way. Maybe things would have been different if I would have copied that design, but I just totally was blown away of the trust and the respect and him handing that to me. Maybe he handed it 100 times over in the industry. I don't know. But to me, I felt personally that it was something special between him and myself that he handed me that drawing. So I knew after the time that the California Kid deal was to come to be, and be in the lightweight car. I had the body of that 34 Ford. That was the car that I pulled out of the potato field that I put together. It was never seen the road, but we took the mold off it, and it was very special. When we chopped the top, we didn't do a traditional chop, maybe a bad Chad deal, or we leaned heavy, but we leaned the back window in like a roadster. So it was a very one-off mold that nobody would have, and made that car out of it, and had the first tube frame with the California Kid. And I lost that car, hawked it like I've done a lot of my.
Uh-oh. Can you hear us? Hello? We lost microphone. If you can hear us, we lost the mic. We can't hear you. Can anyone else hear him right now? I can't hear him. Oh, no. Can anyone hear Mike? Mike, can you hear us? Yeah, we're getting no sounds from you, Mike. Huh. Have to step in and help him. Let's see here. Is your Bluetooth on? Wait a minute.
Yeah, I can hear you
Okay,
through the phone.
I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
My headset just died, but it was no reason for it to die.
Gotcha.
We get so close to everybody.
All right, I got you on that. Yeah, I think your headset died.
Can you hear me now or not?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Let's just go this way, I guess. I don't know. The headset, everything was fine. It just went out.
Gotcha. Well, we have about 4 minutes anyway to end this episode. So we're gonna talk about one more story, and if you can do this, it'd be awesome. We haven't done this in quite some time, but I think it'd be kind of fitting because you mentioned his name. Do you have any funny, good Ron Bachman stories?
Not any funny.
And how was he to you?
He was absolutely the best, and he treated me like a brother. He treated my brother like a brother. I think he treated everybody that he ever met as a friend and like a brother, man. He just was the best. And in Japan, my brother took a photo next to the Big Egg there where we did the show. They had like their bathrooms were so small. It was like a one-piece poured fiberglass unit that it was the toilet and the shower and the sink and everything, and there wasn't any wiggle room for him to sit down in that bathroom. And my brother, I think, took the picture, but we never seen it. And that was something in itself. But all of us walking around Tokyo together was just great. And a true ambassador of the sport, I don't think you really can find anybody that would ever have a bad thing to say about the man. Gone way, way too soon. He'd do anything for you. He was a true friend. If you were having a bad day and you seen him and talked to him, he'd make you have a smile on your face, no doubt.
Man. And then I wanted to, this is just a fan of me. And I remember seeing like the biggest, baddest monster truck VHS. It was kind of like the fourth installment of USA Motorsports. And they focused a lot. I think the video was either in Toronto, Kingdom, Vancouver. But it seemed like they focused a lot between Your Cali Kid and Unnamed and Untamed. And I felt like seeing those two trucks, there was probably like a little bit of a rivalry between those two trucks because before I even add 2 and 2 together when I was a little kid, I just knew you for originally driving California Kid because I was an early 90s kid. I was born in 87. I remember you driving Cali Kid a lot for USA Motorsports. Didn't know until later on that you had Super Pete and Monster Mash and stuff like that. And I didn't put two together when you were also driving Super Pete in the 91 Kingdom show. And I added that together. But me as a fan, I thought there was a little bit of a, I thought, the two best trucks at that show a lot of times, if it wasn't for Bigfoot and Gravediggers, either between Cali Kid or Unnamed and Untamed. I don't know if you felt that way, but when I was a kid, I thought those two in the USA videos were the two trucks that I think was pretty high on the totem pole when I was watching some of those shows.
Yeah, we just happened to be at a lot of the same shows. There was no rivalry between there. The only thing that some people might have been a little confused with, originally Bill Oliver had the truck. He did great in the mud. He was the baddest that there was in the mud when it was yellow. And then he sold that and West and Crazy Charlie were running it. And when Mike West, Terry Woodcock drove it at that point, Mike West and Mike Welch, if you say it quickly, people get them confused a little bit, but there was never a rivalry. That he had so much money into that truck. He was so far ahead of a lot of things that we did with the Hollywood style accumulators and the shocks and all the stuff. Just if there was ever a little bit of bad luck, that truck would find it at these big shows, because it was really ahead of its time. There was so much money spent on the truck. Everything was perfect. Had way more blown alcohol engine in it than anything I ever had, probably even to this day. We had a 510 that was pretty special for a short period of time. But they always had top-notch stuff that came out of LA. They had all the connections from drag boat guys to you name it. They had a lot of horsepower, and just simple little things kept that truck from rising even higher than it was. But it was put together very well with the best parts that money could buy at the time. It was just always some little thing that would happen to keep them. But if you watch Woodcock run that thing, some of the early Longview shows and those West Coast shows, I mean, pretty much unstoppable. But there was just always little things that reared its head. But it was a very awesome piece. And then while we're on the subject there, we helped West build that truck, and then Woodcock and Jack Caberna, and we were doing this thing. It was in the fall, trying to get it done for a show. And it was maybe Nick Jackson was there too. We were all around there, that Portland show, and it was daylight savings time, and we worked around the clock, and all of us together. West finally got 25 hours in a day because we had daylight savings time, and all of us were working there together, building that truck to help him one of those last times when it went out. Kind of a fun story.
So it was like all this technology and stuff like that, but then you had your truck where your truck was landing like a sponge. It looked like it was landing really good for the competitions that you had with Cali Kid, and it looked like as soon as you got on the ground, that's how you were, keeping up or being ahead of people.
Yeah, it worked very well, and that was a 4-inch bore. There's some big stuff now with 4-inch, but the way that I had designed it, is it as perfect as everything today? No. Soft, I believe it was. John Seasock drove it. Jason Hall drove it. Several guys drove it, and they still said it was the softest there was. Were they dropping it from 25, 30, 40, 50 feet in the air? No. But, it did work very well, and my thoughts were spot on. And I'm actually on this new Peterbilt deal. David Tucker, who's one of the best and brightest, and he can keep a secret. We've been working on some very strange concepts for this new truck. Part of it's patent pending, part of it is just out there that you just couldn't control it. And I'm very excited to see if my final chapter is going to be spot on, because the things that I'm developing and putting on the new Super Pete that has never been seen and just very different. And I'm going to throw one more thing out there. Sometimes I say too much, but I'm just going to, I think there's more than enough fame, fortune, love, you name it, for everybody in the world. Nobody has to be selfish with any of it. And just for the smart cookies, the thinkers that are super smart, and there's a million of them around the world. I've got this new design. I don't know where it's going to go. It's certainly after the Pete and after the next one, but it came to me with premonition 6 months ago. If you could imagine, and then somebody's going to just scratch their head and say there's no way, or that Welch has knocked itself silly again. But here it is. Can you still hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we go. It would be a monster truck that's independent suspension with 26 to 30 inches of travel and only 2 working U-joints that we know of today. So think about that one. That's living in my mind. And I just, there's a lot of smart people. So there's one for you to think about, young man.
Anything's possible, Yeah, that'd be awesome to see. But I'm gonna try to make it to the Hall of Fame this year. hopefully you'll be there. Maybe we could have another episode later this year, more face-to-face direct type deal. By that time, I will have my travel kit where I will have 2 microphones and a camera and
All right.
a
Well,
soundboard.
we don't want to overdo a good thing, you know. I mean,
Right.
so much, but we'll take each step forward. I appreciate you having me back, and all my friends, and man, it just what a great life and what a blessing I've had in my life to be able to do something like this from a restaurant in Houston, Texas. Traveling around, doing everything that I do.
And also want to give a shout out too. Go follow Mike's Facebook page and follow his adventures. It's pretty cool seeing the updates, not just the monster truck side, his also hauling big rig side also, the driving the cab over and stuff like that, and all that cool stuff too. So go check out his Facebook page and watch his daily videos. It's pretty cool.
Right on. I'm glad we pulled it off here, and thanks again for everything. I appreciate you.
Hey, no problem, Mike. Thank you for being on. It's awesome to talk to you again, and I'll see you down the road.
All right, man. Take care.
All right, take care. See ya. Well, guys, that was pretty cool. Mike Welch, have him on. Like I said, next week, I need to talk to Mark Warner to see if next week's episode. If not, we may have Morgan Kane. So, that's a possibility. We'll see that in the future, in the next couple of weeks. But guys, thank you for all the loves. Follow us on iTunes, Spotify. This episode will be on later today. Also, screenshot this episode. Tell us that you've been watching this. Show some love. Tag us. Me, Brad, Crush This, Mike Welch, and enjoy the episode. Tag also J Concepts. All our sponsors, MTRC, Back Channel Productions, and man, I'm brain farting all of this. Back Channel Productions, Monster Truck Attitude. Go follow them and everything like that. Much love and all that jazz. So, and also a big serious point. Brad was on earlier. He said, sorry guys, I couldn't make it. Take a week or two break to get my mental health better. Love you guys. Thanks, Cheech, for taking charge and kicking ass. Hey, you know what? I'm proud of you. You're doing steps that you are doing to make yourself better. Practice what you preach, and you even said that on one of your social media that, you have to do what you have to do. And I completely understand what you have to do, and much love towards that. You have an awesome wife behind you. You have a drum set, monster trucks, NHRA drag racing. You got this, bud. And hopefully see you here in the next couple weeks. Be strong. Once again, people, mental health is very key. Please check up on your friends and family. It could be the best of us. And don't be afraid. The most heroic thing you can ever say is I need help. So do that and you'll be all right. Also from Matt Schultz, one of my friends in PA, he had a situation a couple of years ago, donation of blood. Donate to your local blood bank, Central Blood Bank, United Red Cross. Help someone out. It's very, very key. And you just never know. Maybe you can save someone around the world. Brad Shipper, we may not even have him anymore. With a certain situation that he had like the last few years, but a lady from Poland came in, step up, helped him out, had the matching type of blood. Now he's here driving against the grain, doing a kick-ass job. I know he's taking a break this first quarter to catch up on farming and stuff like that, but it is what it is. But he's a very good friend of mine, and it's happy to see him going. Also, it's still wintertime, guys. dogs, animals, dogs, cats. They need to go inside. It's cold out. And in the summertime, too, like Mark Schrader said, when it's hot out, bring them inside also. Just help you out in what you need to do. But like I said, next week, I'm confused on who the guests are. So we'll figure it out and go from there. But once Brad also says that Brad Shaw, I'm Dan Chiche. Gosh, keep the rubber side down and the shiny side up. Good night. Peace.